Four stories we're going to cover on this particular episode. First, a Sangoma is warning pastors from joining ritualism and all this kind of stuff after 15 people turned up dead after a supposed ceremony or a baptism in Taya. We're going to do a little bit of an update on Bishop Zondo's case, which has been postponed. That's going to be the second story. And then the IPHC is also back up in the news about who is taking over succession. And you remember there is an entire R1 billion account that is at war here. So a lot is at stake. And then lastly, we will be talking about the former president Zuma kneeling before the Shembe leader for prayers for his legal case. So there's legal terms that are going on here with the story about the former president and also the IPHC going the whole subject that we are dealing with. It's a reality show, daily Christian commentary videos. If it's your first time over here, do give a subscription if you like this kind of content. We do this on a daily basis. On this particular episode, that's what we are getting down to talk about. But first of all, I want to just do a small little recap on the story of Bishop Zondo, with accusation of witchcraft and all kinds of things that were going on around Bishop Zondo. There were cases that were opened, and those cases actually led up to him having a court date. There was an entire whole period between 2020 and 2021 where there was appearances at the CRL in order to get these cases going, and Bishop Zondo's cases seem like they have gotten a postponed date. And this is because, as they state here, the cases against Archbishop Stephen Bafana Zondo, as you might know him, the rivers of murky waters, as we call him on this channel, was postponed to the 30th of January 2023 and to the North Gauteng High Court of Tshwane today. And so that postponement was done yesterday, and this says, according to Bishop Zondo's attorney Jeffrey Rathakani, the reason for the postponement was to allow the chief interpreter to finalize the transcription of the evidence and all that kind of stuff, the testimonies and stuff like that. And so they need to confirm what was said and what was translated, and that's what has been happening. Kind of hoping for the Popedis to come up with a little bit of an update, and I think maybe they'll be able to do that very soon, and I'll be able to give you an update once they do so. And so those cases still going on. Yeah, court cases do kind of drag sometime. And so speaking of court cases that tend to drag, there is a Sangoma that is out here warning pastors about twalayo, about people who twala with people. Now, if you're not clear on what Ukutwala is when a person goes to get powers in order for them to hold a certain position. And this might give them certain power privileges, spirits, and so forth, either for respect or for wealth or for whatever kind of reason. Says Sangoma says, stop Ukutwala ngabantu to get rich. Stop getting powers in order for you to get rich. And this comes after a story of about 17 people that died very recently in a baptism ceremony. It says the story, if you didn't read it, it came out on the 4th. On this particular article that I'm going to read right now. It says a broken heart from a young mother is trying to understand what happened to her and her family. And a 3-year-old are among the people that were swept away by the flood. And so I don't actually even understand how these people do this baptism stuff, because do you guys just go all the way in deep? And you know, especially with the flash flood, you cannot predict it. The water just rises, and before you know it, you get a huge flood that comes through and it can sweep people away. And so I don't understand how everybody was in the water. And most times when people are being baptized, it's just one person at a time and so forth. But because they have these long rituals and stuff like that, tends to become a bit difficult for you to actually justify it. I saw somebody actually saying that actually if you read down in the bottom, she also says that she said while the pastor was praying, the water began flowing fast, and that's kind of the hint to get out of the water. Okay, Don't be over spiritualizing things. Water doesn't play like that. Y'all know, even people that swim can struggle when this water start to get raging like that. They were trapped, and the mom and the 3-year-old child were trapped with other congregants, while I was stuck on the other side. My 3-year-old baby, she says. And so there are people that are actually in mourning right now because of the situation. The warning comes right after that. Okay? So the warning comes actually as a comment to that. And it says the Sangoma, they named the particular Sangoma, says, has cautioned pastors and Izinyanga to stop using people as sacrifice to get rich. And he said that he was touched by the drowning recently that happened in Alexander on Saturday on the 3rd. And it says allegedly 33 church goers were taken by the river. Okay, so some of these people have not been found. I'm not sure if they found all of them by now, but 30 people were in this particular congregation. I saw one particular article yesterday of a parent who was still in mourning, saying, you know, the child had just joined the church and stuff like that. And for this to happen, it's quite a sad situation. And so the caution that he is given, it's upon that entire Khojes, okay? And it says the family of the deceased said that the pastor who was leading the ritual survived and has not contacted them. That should raise concerns, as the particular Sangoma is actually commenting. It says, I blame the pastor and the spiritual leader who they need to fast and get permission 7 and 14 days before they go to the river. That's according to the rituals of African spirituality and stuff, that you must ask for permission ahead of time before you actually go over there. There are certain rituals where they say once it is done, mandems wouldn't show up. And so you can see where the caution part, by mandem I mean the person who did it, wouldn't show up until a certain time due to whatever kind of ritual it was. So that's why he's saying that it raises concern that he has. I think a lot of people get into the whole river baptism because of the word baptizo, which means to immerse. But the word baptizo doesn't say anything about the place of baptism. Okay? Yeah. A lot of people actually know. It doesn't actually say anything about the place. And so a person could be baptized in a different place and so forth. And so before load shedding does, let me cut this video and switch over to my power station. He said the owner of the river being the snake, and other people call it the river snake. Okay? It's not biblical, but anyways, they don't own nothing, but it's fine. And he said that the fact that kids were also swept away makes him believe that the pastor was doing an evil ritual. Okay, so if you think I'm making it up that the pastor is accused of thinking, yeah, it's literally right in the article. He's saying that that there's kids involved here. It kind of brings up the suspicions on a high alert as well. And so according to this, the rest of this article said the families must find him and make him tell them what he did to their loved ones. It says prophet. Oh, he's prophet. Okay, Prophet Lucky Maki said the water belongs to God and Amadozi don't. Okay, the prophet. That's a very weird statement to make from a prophet. I must say, a prophet said the water belongs to God and Amadros, but prophets go there for money and sacrifices. And so that gives me the idea that he is from one of those indigenous churches and so forth. And so they put a lot of people in trouble because they're mixing teachings here. Him being a prophet and him being a pastor, and just too much to handle, particularly when it comes to this particular subject. And he said that the pastor knows why he took those people there. And you know what? This article, it's a lot. So this is why I'm saying that the pastor is accused of doing ritualistos, because you took them there and there is kids also involved in the sweeping away. There is the kids that were also part of the thing where people were actually swept away. People really need to question themselves what it's, but also bear in mind, with African spiritualism and all this kind of stuff, there is all kinds of mixtures. They're mixing teachings. Like you can hear the prophet saying the river belongs to God, and the ancestors don't own nothing because the ancestors are just like you, right? Yeah, your ancestors, great people, you love them, but they don't own anything when they cross. Isn't it clear? Even when you read in your Bible, when you read the story of Lazarus and the rich man, it is clear those that pass on to their next life, they don't own nothing. We came with nothing and we leave with nothing. But because prophetos don't have a clear aspect of doctrine in these areas, they tend to have all kinds of things. But anyways, this is what this particular story has developed to where people are asking questions to this pastor to say, hey, mandams, Dintang, what's going on? After all these things, we don't see you coming over to talk to the families, and this entire thing happens with kids involved, and you were so persistent. They got everybody into the water, and now there are even people that are coming out from different belief systems. I would say similar belief systems in my view, who are saying, hey, Mandem, what Mandem is doing is very questionable. And so that says a lot. It says a lot. And the one thing that for me it reminds is, stop mixing. They leave people in danger. They leave families in danger. They leave people in tears, people crying out here because they're trying to reconcile what just happened. People who lost loved ones, people that were just waiting for their loved ones to come back from this supposed baptism that was taking place, and boom, nobody's showing up. Stop mixing doctrines. Okay, it just doesn't pan out well in that particular area. And also, speaking of mixing doctrines here, if you go to the IPC story here, I heard a very fascinating thought line around the story. The part of the story that kind of catches my attention is that ever since the passing of the bishop, they've been at war at trying to gain full control of this church, and particularly the banking aspect of it, because this particular church has a very huge banking asset thing. IPC story, the leader is known as comforter, okay, and the idea that a comforter is a title of a person which can be passed on, it's not biblical. There is no way you can find it. Now, IPHC people, I've always said, the only thing that kind of bothers me with their name is it says International Pentecostal, okay, holiness something. I think, what is it? Yeah, International Pentecostal Holiness Church. I think that's what the full name is. That's far from church, because the idea of the comforter in the church is the Holy Spirit. It's not a person that was alive in the body. If you don't know, that's one of the doctrines that the IPHC teaches. So with the mixture of doctrine also over there, they are mixing human theology with Bible theology and trying to make up their own. It's where people end up dead. And at IPHC, people have been dying for years. People have been fighting. People get shot, whatnot. People who might be there innocently land themselves in the middle of this fight because people are fighting for the throne and for the authority over this particular assets of this church. And so it's so telling when people start mixing doctrines, things just don't end well. With the Zondo situation over there, mixing theology, mixing teachings, it lands them in a position where they are, where the man them teaches weird teachings, weird all kinds of things, and it lands people now having to go to the lengths at which they are right now. Like if you go to the last story here, the former president, Jacob Zuma, showed up at the Shembe church. Now, if it is according to the Shembe movement, the leader is seen as God. The leader is seen as equal to Jesus, almost like that kind of a narrative. They still God, but they still see him more like a Jesus figure type of a thing, because you will have stickers of the leader of the church which says Shembe is the way, which is the statement that we make about Jesus, saying Jesus is the way. And so it's quite a telling thing. So when the president who ascribes to that theology is going over there for prayers, let's speak about the court case. He's saying, he just wants this thing to be over with and whatnot and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it can be over with, but was there any right or wrong that needs to be spoken about? Which is what the case is. A case means there's something right, wrong that needs to be talked about. Things just don't disappear. Things just don't go poof and not talked about. And so that's what you are in court for. It's that there's something to be talked about. Because I'm tired. I'm tired of coming to court. I'm tired of going to court. It doesn't say there isn't the right and wrong that needs to be talked about. And so when people go to pastors and so forth to get prayers, it kind of perplexes me. Does the right, wrong not get addressed because you're tired of having to do? And when you are going there it just kind of, remember, Zuma has over 700 charges against him. I don't know if some of those have been dismissed. And so for them to find 700 charges, it says a lot. Does that just get dismissed because now he got prayers? Why is it that the IPHC right now is still in court fighting for church assets and who's in control of what and all that kind of stuff with Zebracom and all those things? Mixing of theology. Why is it that today people are being accused of taking part in weird rituals out there? As you see in the story of 15 people dying recently, mixing theologies. It's the same thing that takes Bishop Zondo back into court. Why is he over there? Mixing theologies. When you mix, you open the Pandora box for all kinds of things. So for all these stories, that's what you see. I could have talked about these stories individually, but I felt they were so intertwined. They were almost like one subject. This comes up once you start mixing teachings, once you start mixing theologies. If you were straightforward with what the Bible says is this, we are following this. You're not adding to it. You're not like the second episode that we made of the Ellen White story. She is adding her own ideas. She's adding her own ngondo. So what ends up happening is that it mixes things, and that mixture is not good. Cannot mix old wine with you see that parable. That's where it comes in. It's an actuality show. We do daily Christian commentary videos. I thought these stories were such a telling thing, and I wanted to post them out here so we can have the conversation about them. Y'all tell me what you think. It's Ricky, and I'll see you on a later on. Y'all stay good. Have a wonderful afternoon. Salute.